Welcome back to Mental Health Today, and we had an episode 2 weeks ago, and we received an email back, some feedback from someone named JD. But first, let's talk about why we didn't do an episode last week.
Yes, before we got to, we had this all set up with what we were going to be talking about with political correctness and humor. And to show that, that we're not professionals, that we are actually two mentally ill people. I had a episode, mental breakdown, if you would want to call it, about a week and a half ago. And I could not handle filming a show on political correctness and humor. And I went to you, and I felt so bad about it because we're a weekly show. And I had to actually go to Mike and say, I am not in the frame of mind to be able to even do this, so we need to take a break until I gather myself. So for the viewers who were looking forward to the episode, sorry it's a week late, but as they always say, better late than never. I'm definitely in a much better mental place right now, which I'll talk about later in the episodes about, utilizing those free support systems.
Okay.
And that's what I did to get through it, and now I'm okay, so now we can move on.
And we do have tools to work on it. And you mentioned that we're both mentally ill, and the email that we got from JD used the word nut job. And I felt like saying, if you're going to use it, use something like Looney Tunes or Whack Job or something like that. What, nut job? But
my eyes went to that as well.
Yeah.
And my eyes also went to when he referred to normal people, and I just flew through the roof once I saw that. Because first of all, my argument is, if you accept the fact and call yourself a nut job, there are a few people who watch this who know that previously, a few years ago, and some people still call me it today, but some people refer to me as Twisted Tony. And I embraced that for a long time because I thought it was getting me attention and getting me popularity, when in fact it really wasn't. But when you accept some label like that about yourself, you limit your opportunity to grow as a human being.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we talked about bullying. That was the big topic, and you received a lot of feedback on that. And that's a huge topic when you talk about teenage suicide and the suicide in the high school as a result of bullying. It's a huge issue on mental illness. But part of bullying on a smaller scale is teasing. And really, when they called you Twisted Tony, it's kind of a form of teasing, but when you're sensitive to that, that can lead to mental health issues as well.
Well, my argument was that I was allowing it to happen. And once I put my foot down and said, I will not accept this language about myself anymore, that's when I started to grow. That's when I started to feel better and freer. So my advice to JD is stop referring to yourself as a nut job. That's a self-esteem thing. And I don't, when I started this vision with you, one of the things that I had in mind was I want to help the people who aren't okay with being called Twisted Tony. They're not okay with being called nut jobs. Mm-hmm. And they want to do something about it. Mm-hmm. Those are the people I want to help.
Yeah.
I don't want to help someone who's sitting there and just going, well, I'm a nut job. When you have that acceptance about yourself and say, I'm a nut job, there's no opportunity to further grow.
Yeah, and teasing people and putting them down, I think we have a little disagreement on this, but I think it's kind of a form of insecurity in that people will feel better about themselves when they put somebody else down. I have my own experience with that. This was back, I think I was 18, and I was burnout, which was true. But my friends and my brother would always call me the fog guy, and they'd always use this expression. We have a metro system, and one of the places that they stop at is Foggy Bottom, and And when I sat there and I'd be like stoned and kind of like, what? And they'd go, Foggy Bottom Metro Center, and it just bothered me so much that I was foggy that I felt like I had to be in tune suddenly and with it all the time. I couldn't let my mind drift, and that in itself caused me some issues. And back to what you're saying, it's more like, hey, look, it's not about me, it's about them, and shut the hell up.
Well, I'm appreciative of the comment we got from JD, but I'm worried too, because again, when someone has such a low opinion of themselves that they're willing to accept that about themselves, you're basically running into a brick wall over and over again.
Yeah.
And then wondering why your head's still hurting.
Yeah, and I think that if you really take a look at mental illness, and again, we have a saying at the end of this, if you want to get your arms around mental illness, give somebody a hug. And what that means is that when you grow up and you get negative feedback, whether it's growing up in a family that you feel is treating you poorly and so forth, and you start to get older and you get that negative self-image, you start taking on self-destructive behaviors. Yes, and absolutely. Those self-destructive behaviors can include addiction, getting yourself into situations that end up bringing you down because you're self-destructive.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I'm so glad you made that point. That's why I worry about people like JD.
Yeah, and we hope JD
because
gets better.
When you live so long thinking a certain way about yourself, it's very hard to untrain that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get it untrained, you gotta keep moving forward.
Yeah, and
the Twisted Tony thing pretty much ended. We had an incident a couple weeks ago. We were both together, and someone we both know referred to me as Crazy Tony, and it really ticked me off. Just because I won't accept that language about myself anymore. I think the way you talk about yourself and the way you feel yourself has a huge effect on how you go about your day. And I wouldn't allow friend, not friend, it wouldn't matter. I don't want to enable that behavior. That's where my key comes in. I will not enable that behavior, and for me, to not enable that behavior is to walk away from you.
Yeah, and in my case, at this point in time, if I tune somebody out, I tune somebody out. And if they say to me, hey, why aren't you paying attention? Well, I'm just going to say, because I wasn't paying attention. It's just, you are able to train yourself and change your behavior. And that's the important thing that everybody needs to know is you can change. You don't have to remain in a negative path.
And the last thing that I want to say before we move on to the next segment really is to JD himself. Or herself, whoever it was. But I worry about people like you constantly, because when there is a lack of acceptance, people think, oh, I accept it because I can call myself that because I accept who I am. To me, it's just the opposite. You're not accepting who you are. If you accepted who you were and had some self-esteem and self-confidence, like I've been preaching since the first episode, you don't need the constant putting yourself down thing. It almost becomes like habit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it becomes acceptable because you accept the behavior.
Yeah, and to people like ourselves who this has affected us, there's a sense that okay, you guys are overly sensitive. Well, maybe that's true, and maybe it takes time to be less overly sensitive. But at the same time, there's a difference between somebody who has self-deprecating humor and can make people laugh, and people who are self-deprecating who really believe that there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely. So thank you again, JD, for your email. I hope you keep watching and get something out of the show.
Absolutely, and this is why we love to get feedback. We hope it helps
And
others.
we'll also have our email at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. It's mentalhealthtoday04@gmail.com.
Okay, and talking about self-deprecating humor and other kinds of humor, and since politically correctness is our theme today, humor is Mike's take, and that's my take coming up.